So in this video, I'm going to cover definitely kind of a little bit of a wide range of topics. I want to tell you first of all kind of like what my process was when thinking about buying property, where my head was at, what were my intentions. You know, I've thought of it more as an investment standpoint. What are some things that I did? What are some of the basic due diligence that will need to be done? Some that I've done, you know, on my own versus some that is done by a lawyer. So the due diligence process, what documents are included in that, and what does each property really need to have? My process with my kind of advice on picking a builder and having them actually look at lots with you. If you're going to be buying land, if you're buying a home, this could be a different process. So really this video is just going to share my own personal experience. It's been totally all over the place. So like just my experience in general in terms of looking at land versus looking at houses versus what I wanted to do with that. In the end, I'm buying a lot in order to build a house to sell it. I'm not going to be living in it. I will either rent it out I'll probably just rent it out until it sells, and then I will do that again. And why am I doing that? Because for me personally, I like projects. If you haven't noticed, if you don't really know me, I don't know, I'm always getting myself into some kind of project, and I think it's going to be fun. I know it's going to have challenges. I know maybe some days I might want to pull my hair out, but I don't think I think I always like to choose the harder way to do things. That's just kind of how I function. So, but I will do it with having the right guidance. So I know that if I have the right guidance for this process, it's been fine. And I'm just going to share the experience as it goes. So really for me, I'm just excited to create a home on a lot and make it beautiful, and then for someone else to enjoy it one day when they buy it. And then I want to do that again, because again, for me, life is just a process of creating, and I think that's a fun thing to do. Plus, it's also a smart investment, a smart thing to do. So it's not a harmful thing to go create. So yeah, so let's get into the material of the video. Okay, so this part's going to be about some of the, I guess, ideas that I've had when it's come to property purchase. So, you know, you might have different motives for property purchase. Like we have some clients in our relocation program who come down, they're retiring, they want to purchase their home that they're going to live in here in Costa Rica. Or sometimes we'll have families that want to do that, or just an individual who's come to move down and they just strictly want to purchase a home to live in. Me personally, I'm kind of looking at property purchase in the form of an investment. So kind of the ideas that I was kicking around in the beginning when I was thinking about property purchase was, there was one in particular that I had my eye on. It was a house that had burnt halfway down, but the location was absolutely amazing here in Playa Hermosa, just a little walking trail down to the beach, properly titled land. So my idea was just to kind of like gut the whole thing, like take the rest of it down and build an apartment on the bottom and an apartment on the top. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll live on the top and rent out the bottom. So some of my ideas have been, okay, either purchase a property to have a multi-family unit that can be rented, and then maybe I eventually sell it. Yeah, build like multi-little family housing if possible. And now what I'm doing actually is I'm purchasing a lot. I'm going to build a home on it, just a single family home, and then I'm going to sell that. I'm just gonna sell it immediately, or I guess as quickly as the market will allow me to sell it. And then I'd like to actually do that again. So that's kind of where I've progressed in some of my ideas. There was one that I had months ago that I was actually working on. I was going through the Costa Rican system to try to get a loan. I do have my permanent residency here, so I am eligible to get bank loans here in Costa Rica. And I will do a whole nother video on that process, because they just ran me around in circles, I'm telling you. And you know what? And I'm not a person to force things. If it doesn't feel right, or if it's such a struggle, not that good things aren't worth fighting for, but I felt, you know what? This just doesn't feel right at this point. So I'm not gonna keep pushing this thing that doesn't seem like it wants to happen. So that's kind of how I ended up with that. But that house was a pretty brand new home, nice 2-story, 2-bedroom, and then detached from it were 2 studio rental units, very close to the, you know, walking distance to the beach here in Playa Hermosa. Beautiful property, had a pool, really, really nice. But for that, I definitely did need financing. And I will do a separate video on the banks, and if that video is up now, then it will be in the description down below, and I will explain to you what that bank process was like and how it kind of didn't work out for me. Who knows, if you know, it could still work out for you too. And we can also talk about different financing options in another video. This is just kind of like, as you can see, as I begin to talk about this process, there's just so many moving pieces and parts that go into property purchase. So those were some of the ideas that I had thrown around. So in the end, the idea was, okay, purchase a lot, build on it, either rent it or sell it or do something with it. But the purpose is to purchase, build, and either rent or sell. So when I've been looking for lots, you know, there's been a lot of different lots that I've looked at, and I have some tips that I want to share that can help you. So I know a lot of people come down, they're like, okay, I'm gonna come down, I'm gonna buy a piece of land, yep, it's gonna be great. It's definitely a slower process if you wanna do it correctly. If you wanna do this correctly, it may not be like that. Unless the owner has all the things for the due diligence ready immediately, like ready to hand over to you, then, you know, it can take some time. For me, it doesn't really make sense for a property owner not to have these things ready if they're really trying to sell their property, because it does make the process that much more slow. And I found that I've had to run around collecting information that really they should be doing. So that's another fun thing. So when I was looking at lots, I am not an expert, I am not an engineer, I'm not an architect. So one of the most important things that I did first was decide who was going to be doing the construction. So who is my construction company going to be? Because ultimately you want them to advise you on the lot, because they're going to be doing your construction. Now, I have had people ask me for like recommendations on contractors. I'd be happy to recommend, I'd be happy to send you who I'm using. Just send me an email, you can check them out. But I'm really hesitant on recommending those things in general, just because it is something that requires a lot of money, and if it gets messed up, you know, I don't want to be responsible for that. So that's why you won't actually see me on the channel really recommending anyone in terms of like for like home building and like building, because it is just such a delicate subject. It just depends what area you're going to be in Costa Rica. I do recommend always going by the personal recommendations of others in the community who have used particular people. Like, I will say that that's kind of the best way you can go, versus Googling. I guess you can Google, but really do your own due diligence and check into each of these companies and see, okay, who's actually used them, how did their experience go, did like what they quoted, was it kind of similar to the, you know, you can always expect construction to cost more than what they're going to quote. That's just kind of a rule of thumb here. But, you know, how off were they, or was it on target? You know, you can also expect construction to take longer than they say it will, but how much longer did it take, or did they actually meet the deadline? You know, so it's really, really important to always go through recommendations of people that are in the community when you're looking to build. So that's why I'm very hesitant to actually make any recommendations there, and I'm almost kind of not willing to in general. I mean, I'm happy to tell you who I'm using, but again, I don't want to be responsible. I'll let you know how it goes. Like, how about when it's over and done with, I'll let you know how it goes. How about that? Sorry, I thought I had a call I had to get to. I'm sitting at my little beach office today with my computer doing my calls, but I've wanted to do these videos for a while to talk about this topic. So I have a little bit of time now. Okay, so really, like, yeah, choosing your contractor, and it is worth paying them to come look at lots with you. Like, if you do find a lot that you're really serious about, it is really worth them coming to look at it for you. So first, number one on a lot, again, I'm not a real estate attorney. I have real estate attorneys I'm happy to recommend, but I'm not an attorney. I'm just letting you know exactly what I did. So the first thing I would do whenever I look at a lot is, you know, I get the plano. It's called a plano. It's like kind of like, you know, it has the dimensions, and maybe I'll show you one that's blurred or something. I would look at the plano. I want to know, okay, does it have electricity on the property? So you want to see like an electricity letter. Does it have legal water? You want to see a water letter, and you want to see, make sure that it's properly registered. So like your lawyer can check in to check the registry of the property and make sure that everything's fine there. And I want to have the uso del suelo. So if you're going to be building, the uso del suelo is important because that will tell you, it's called like use of the floor. So it'll tell you, you know, what you can and can't do with that property. So what's the percentage that you're allowed to build on that property? How many floors are you allowed to build? So it'll tell you if there's any restrictions. Maybe if there's a creek at the back of the property, how far do you need to be back from that creek? So the uso del suelo is really important because you want to make sure that nothing in that uso del suelo is going to crash with the project that you want to do. So let's say if you found a smaller lot and it says you can't build on more than 75% of the property, but you kind of did plan to do that, you know, these are just things that you really need to know. So electricity, you want to have electricity, water, plano, you know, making sure, have your lawyer do that basic due diligence of just making sure, checking the property in the system, and the uso del suelo. From there are other due diligence items to do, but those are kind of the first that I do primarily before I want to start investing more time into looking into that option. So I do that first, and once everything's all checked out, then I had my builder come look at some lots with me. Once I kind of checked out that, okay, these are all like legally okay, I would have the builder come check them out. And so, you know, because your contractor will see the things that you just may not. You know, like I said, I'm not a builder, so like I would like someone's expert opinion. Like there was one lot that I looked at in Hermosa, and I was like, looks flat to me. I mean, it had a little bit of a slope down at the end, but nothing serious, just barely, you know. And, you know, after he came out, he took the drone, he did, you know, all this, that, and the other. We talked about it. You know, it was on flat land, but there was a mountain road that kind of if you follow the road, you start going up a hill, a pretty steep hill. And so he really did explain to me like, oh, because of the way the property is shaped here and the other property line, you're going to need a retaining wall. And that's going to, you know, so he's letting me know like that's going to be X amount extra. You know, pretty much he determined on that particular lot that it was going to cost like $20,000 just to prepare the lot for the construction. And I was like, good to know. And he had mentioned that, you know, if people keep building up this hill, as this probably will happen, there could be an issue with water runoff for a future owner. And I know that I'm probably not going to be that future owner, and I believe in good vibes and good juju, so I really don't want to build a house and sell it if the future owner is going to have problems there. So that was what happened with one of the lots. Another one, you know, some of the other ones that I looked at, and I'm going to sprinkle some photos in here as well, some things that I was looking at, was in a development. I'm not going to name the development, but it was legally, it was set up very strange. It was like, if you were going to buy a lot there, you weren't buying titled property, you were pretty much buying a percentage into the corporation of their condominium. And so my lawyers pretty much said like, hey, this is a red flag. Like, we don't really understand why they set it up this way, even though that there are houses there, there's infrastructure, you know, nobody seems to be unhappy. I don't know, but they just said, you know, like we wouldn't move forward with this one, which is kind of a bummer because there was a lot or two in there that was within my budget that looked good and I was kind of excited about. Some of them that were sloped on a hill though, you know, for what I wanted to do, my builder was able to tell me, no, retaining wall here, retaining wall there, you know, which, you know, this is my first project, so I don't have an unlimited budget. This is my first project just to kind of get things started. And, you know, like I said, the goal is to sell this and then I can look at doing another project. And so that's kind of what happened with those lots. But then there's some other ones. So there's always lots, and maybe you're wondering how I found some of them. I actually found a lot of them on Facebook Marketplace. So Facebook Marketplace is a pretty good place to find them. Also, just driving around my neighborhood looking for sale signs. I did look at some real estate websites. I looked at one real estate website, recognized, so the lot that I'm actually buying, I recognized exactly what property it was from the pictures, and I said, oh, I actually know that owner. Let me just go talk to them. So I went over and saw the different, you know, he had two different options for sale, and I picked one that was kind of more in the back, but we had to do a lot of the same due diligence. And I had to do a lot of running around for this due diligence. Okay, I have the due diligence items here on my computer. I'm going to read them off to you. That this is in my purchase agreement with the owner. So I did my pre-due diligence to make sure if I even wanted to enter into a purchase agreement with him. And I'll talk about purchase agreements as well. And this is going to be a very just long version of everything. And then I will break this down into shorter videos. Like I'll talk about a purchase agreement. I'll talk about the sales agreement. I'll talk about the due diligence items. So, I mean, if you just want to hang in here with me and like let me talk all this out, then feel free to keep watching. But I do understand this probably needs to be broken down into smaller parts. So here's some things that are in my purchase agreement. So first, what I did, like I said, I got the okay from my builder after I had already checked that, okay, it has electricity. I got the water letter, I had the owner get the water letter because I couldn't go get it myself. I went and got the uso del suelo myself. We already had the plano. So I knew that the property was going to be okay for the project I wanted to do based on what the uso del suelo said. I knew it has electricity. I could see it had electricity. Like I could literally see the pole, it's right there. I could see other properties have been built there. I even saw the line for the water. But again, just to be tripled, quadrupled, million sure, I wanted those letters. And you should get them anyways because you're going to need to have them for your permitting process in order to build. And we'll get into that too. So building will be in the future. I'll keep you all updated. So even though I could see it was all there and the owner told me it was all there, like I would really look like for yourself, I would not just take someone's word for it. Get the proper documentation. That's just to protect yourself. And so that's why this process has been taking me months, because I had to go to multiple different offices, or I had to wait on the owner to get something. I went to request the uso del suelo. They told me it would take 10 days. I went back like 3 weeks later. I still never got it. They'd forgotten just to do it. And then I got it within like a day or two after. But, you know, so it takes weeks. You know, due diligence can take weeks and months to do, depending on how fast or slow things are just going for you. So here's some things. After I had those items, I knew that the property would work and I had those documentation items that I wanted. I went ahead and did a purchase option with the owner. So that means that the owner can't sell the property while I'm going to complete the rest of the due diligence. So, you know, while me and my lawyers and we're all doing the rest of the due diligence. So here's some of the items that we were doing in the meantime. So the plano of the property, please bear with me. This is all in Spanish, so I'm going to be trying to translate it. So I got the plano of the property, registry of the property in the public registry of Costa Rica. So the plano, the owner should be able to provide you. They should just have it. The public registry, you know, your lawyer can look that up to see that the property's there. It is good to have a topographer come and confirm the limits of the property. That's another thing you can do. The owner had already done that. I might have someone come out after just to double check, but I'm not too stuck on that item. So the certification of zonification from the local government. So this is pretty much sounds like the uso del suelo to confirm the availability for residential use. So we got that. That was the uso del suelo. All good. Can't use the property commercially, which is fine. I don't want to. So I got confirmation I can use it residentially through the uso del suelo. You can do a geological test if you want to have your builder help you get a soil sample. That could be a good idea as well. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna maybe do that afterwards. Confirmation that the property is up to date on taxes. That's very important. Confirmation of the water and electricity, important. Making sure that the value of the property is declared with the municipality, with their local municipality. That's important. One of the lots of the same owner was not declared, so I wasn't able to get the uso del suelo. So, but the lot that I want, luckily, was already declared. Not a bad process for them to go declare it, but it needs to be declared. So that was pretty much it, actually, for those due diligence items. There was two more, but they didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But that's why you should definitely work with a good lawyer. Make sure that, they know what they're doing. They're being really thorough. The lawyers I work with, I know, are super thorough, and they definitely treat this property purchase as if it was their own. So that's going to be pretty much it for this video. So this video pretty much has talked about kind of my own experience with what ideas I kicked around in terms of buying property and what I wanted to do. I talked about a little bit of the due diligence process, how I've picked lots and how I went about that process of bringing the builder to see them and things to watch out for. And in the next video, we'll just dig into some more of those points, like the purchase option, and I'm just going to keep sharing my process as it goes. So the next steps for me are, let's see, it will be to actually transfer the rest of the money into escrow. So I did have to open up an escrow account for the deposit, so we'll talk about escrow accounts too. So I opened up an escrow account, I put in the money for the deposit for the purchase option, and now I'm just waiting to find out how much more I need to transfer in, and then we can pick up closing date for the property where I can actually sign the papers and officially own the property. So very excited about that, and I will keep you guys posted on the journey.